Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the Congress sweeping the Punjab local body polls. We also take a quick look at how some primary health centers in Bhagalpur have been allegedly fudging COVID 19 data. But first, we talk about the South African variant of the novel coronavirus. On Tuesday, the government said that 4 cases of the South African variant of COVID 19 have been detected in the country. This variant, which was first detected in South Africa, is supposed to be more transmissible and responsible for the second wave of COVID 19 infections in South Africa. The variant has specially raised concerns because it appears that some vaccines may not be as effective against it. Now, before we go ahead, it might be helpful to know what exactly a variant is. A variant is caused by a mutation in the virus. A mutation means a change in the genetic sequence of the virus. All viruses mutate. So, this virus, that is the SARS CoV 2 virus, has also mutated several times in the past, leading to variants like the UK one that was in the news a few months ago. In this segment, we talk to Conan Sheriff, who reports on health for the Indian Express, about what we know about this South African variant and how it compares to the UK one.
So the South African variant has multiple mutations in the spike protein region, like the UK variant. Around 3 to 4 mutations are very similar, which means that this variant is more transmissible. So it transmits to more number of people. However, yesterday Balram Bhargav said that in addition to this, there is another mutation in the what we call as a receptor binding domain region.
Dr. Balram Bhargav is the Director General at the Indian Council of Medical Research. And Conan explains that this other mutation he talks about basically attaches itself to the lungs even more quickly.
So not only does it actually transmit at a higher rate, but also is able to attach to the human lungs, which is the receptor binding region. So that's the concern. So this variant was first identified in the Nelson Mandela Bay in South Africa, and cases have been detected even outside South Africa, including United States and United Kingdom.
In fact, this variant has been found in more than 30 other countries. In some of those countries, including Belgium, cases of community transmission have also been reported.
Currently, of course, there is no evidence to suggest that this variant has any impact on the disease severity, which means that we don't know whether it will cause a severe form of the COVID-19 infection. However, the biggest red flag or the big concern across the world is that there is some evidence, specifically CDC of US has said that there is some evidence to indicate that one of the spike protein mutation, which we call as E484K, may affect the neutralization of the antibody, which means that the similar antibodies which are actually even generated by the vaccine that can get affected.
This is particularly concerning for countries that have started their vaccination drives, like South Africa, for example. Their regulatory body had last month granted emergency use authorization for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, a variant of which is being developed by the Serum Institute in India. Now, as part of its vaccine diplomacy, India had sent South Africa 1 million doses of the vaccine on the 1st of February. But now, the country has paused the vaccine rollout because while the vaccine seems to tackle mild and moderate cases, it doesn't seem as effective against severe cases. And this is happening when this new variant is raging in the country.
This new variant right now constitutes almost 80% of the cases in South Africa. So as of February 9th, there were almost 1.4 million cases and 45,000 deaths in South Africa. This is the largest number of cases in African continent. So if you look at Africa per se, there are 96,000 deaths so far of COVID-19 in Africa, and 45,000 of deaths have happened only in the South African region. So you're seeing that the biggest trigger has been this new form of the variant. So after we saw this big emergence, the virus has been isolated, and the UK researchers have been testing on various vaccines, including the 1 million doses that have been sent by India. However, a day later, WHO said that the phase 3 results of AstraZeneca vaccine actually provides to mild infection, and for the severe infection we have to still conduct a detailed investigation. Therefore, this vaccine still is advised to be used to stop the infection. So that's the thing right now which has happened last week.
According to reports, South African health workers were already angered by the country's slow vaccine rollout, but now are even more frustrated because the vaccine rollout has been paused. But the fact that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine might not be as effective against this new variant has a lot of people concerned. Conan talks about what studies about it have revealed so far.
So the preliminary findings which have been done by the universities in Africa have shown that the efficacy rate of this vaccine against mild and moderate COVID-19 was as low as 21.9%. So why is this low? Because the WHO, like that has said that the efficacy rate should be at least 50%. Even if it is approved for emergency use authorization, it has to provide even at least 50% of protection. So it is even below that threshold level. So that's the only big study that has come out right now out of this. India itself has not been able to still isolate this virus and culture this variant. So once we isolate and culture the virus, then it will be tested on the other vaccine, which is the Covaxin of Bharat Biotech, which is a whole virion technology.
The Bharat Biotech vaccine is a whole virion inactivated vaccine and uses a technique which is more tried and tested and works differently from the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
We've seen that Bharat Biotech has shown that it is efficacious in the same levels as for the UK variant. So it will be very, very crucial for India to test, isolate, and see whether this vaccine is working against. Because if you remember, when an emergency use authorization for Bharat Biotech's vaccine was given, one of the rationale was that since it's a whole virion technology, it will be able to tackle these various mutations in several other regions. So it's not just at the spike protein region, but it will be able to generate immune response even if there are mutations in different regions of this virus. But that is one aspect of it. But what we have to also understand is that what is happening in Africa is also the fact that there have been more number of hospitalizations. We have seen that the healthcare facilities have been under stress. So if this variant spreads in India at the rate how it has been spreading in Africa, then besides just the vaccination drive, you would again see a stress in the hospital resources. That is also another concern.
Reports also claim that based on preliminary data, the South African variant might affect younger populations more. And even though the studies around this variant have been small, it does have many scientists concerned that the virus might be evolving even more quickly. When talking about the UK variant, Conan says that there have been studies that show that it is linked with an increased risk of death. And there are concerns because the mutations that the UK variant has are similar to the ones that the South African variant have, even though there is no evidence right now that the South African variant causes a more severe type of COVID-19. But authorities like that in UK are keeping a close watch.
And you had last week again the scientists who heads their consortium saying that the UK variant virus would become the dominant virus in UK, and they have said that the South African variant is a new cause of concern. The South African variant has in fact entered the Kent region. So right now it's too early to say whether this variant is going to become a dominant variant across the globe. See, mutations are very, very, very common in viruses, so that shouldn't be a big cause of worry. But however, we should be understanding that the variant which becomes dominant, that has to be tackled well. So that's why now we have a surveillance system here. In fact, right now, India is testing everyone who is coming from South Africa.
Here, Conan points out that the 4 people in India who have been detected with the South African variant aren't all from South Africa. One is from Angola, and the other one is from Tanzania.
And yesterday, the health secretary highlighted that not all flights that come from South Africa are direct flights. So they are actually connecting flights. So they will be talking to Ministry of Civil Aviation to see how we sort of do the surveillance in much more efficient way. Right now, what we are doing is that we're just conducting the RT-PCR tests of flights that are indirectly originating from South Africa. And if the samples are found to be positive, then you send it for your genomic surveillance.
And next, we talk about the local body polls in Punjab. Earlier this month, the urban local body polls had taken place in Punjab. The polls were initially supposed to take place last year, but were postponed due to the pandemic. These polls are especially significant because they are the first polls in the state to take place during the ongoing farmer protests during the last year of Chief Minister Amrinder Singh's government and after the split between the Shiromani Akali Dal and the BJP, which happened because of the farmers' protests. In this segment, we talk to Rakhi Jagga, who has been covering these elections, about the results and their significance.
These elections, they were quite one-sided. The elections happened in 117 urban local bodies, but the results on February 17 were announced for 116 urban local bodies. For Mohali, the results will be announced on February 18 because the repolling happened in 2 of the wards in Mohali. So out of the 116 urban local bodies, Congress won on 109 urban local bodies. So, it was quite a landslide victory for them. And in 7 municipal corporations, they won all the 7. And if you see the results, in every municipal corporation, there are 50 wards. So in Abohar, out of 50 wards, Congress won on 49 wards. And in Bathinda, out of 50 wards, Congress won on 43 wards. And same was in Kapurthala, 43 out of 50 wards.
She says that Moga was the only civic body where Congress didn't do that well. There, they won 20 out of 50 seats. There were also 10 independent candidates that won in Moga, who she says are likely to join the Congress party. Moreover, in Firozpur and Zira municipal councils, the Congress won all seats, which Rakhi says is historic.
This has never ever happened ever since independence that any political party is winning 100% of the seats. So they're quite unusual results on many of the seats. And I spoke to the Congress MLA Parminder Singh Pinky, who is from Firozpur, and while he was celebrating that his party won 33 out of 30 seats in the Firozpur Municipal Council, and he said he recalled that in 2015 it was 60-40 or 70-30 kind of representation by the ruling party and the opposition party. And this time, the opposition party was nowhere in seen. So that way, the elections are quite different from the 2015 local bodies, where opposition, they were having a say of about 30% at least. But this time, it's more than 90% on many seats. Not on every seat, but yes, on many seats, it's more than 90%.
These results are being seen by many as an outcome of the farmers' protests. But Rakhi says that may not be entirely the case. And Congress, for one, isn't claiming that either.
Congress is saying that the results are a reflection that the masses believe in them and their development works. This is a version of Congress. And at the same time, they're not claiming the farmers' protests as a reason for this landslide victory. But yes, this can be one of the reasons that when the farmers are protesting in the state, their main target party is the BJP. But at the same time, Akali Dal, Aam Aadmi Party, they were also for the farmers. However, their results are also, they have given a very poor performance.
Plus, she says BJP, the Akali Dal, and the Aam Aadmi Party are all blaming the Congress of booth capturing, bogus voting, and following violent means to achieve their goals.
There was violence in Moga while the campaigning was on, where 2 Akali workers were killed, and the Congress candidate's husband was arrested in this incident. In Jalalabad area, on the nomination day, Akali Dal President Sukhbir Badal had gone to get the nomination papers filed for his candidates, and his vehicle was attacked, and there was stone pelting between both the parties, Congress and Akalis. So there were some violent incidents during the campaigning as well. The Congress, they had been facing these allegations that they are using all the official machinery and they are following unfair means. And much before the results of these elections, the opposition parties, they were saying that Congress will follow unfair means and they will go up to any level to win the elections. So they are even saying that it's a death of democracy.
And amid the allegations of booth capturing and bogus voting, Rakhi says that repolling also took place in some places.
Repolling happened in 3 polling booths on February 16. And on February 17, repolling happened on the 2 polling booths in Mohali. So repolling happened at 5 places. So there were complaints and the EVMs were damaged in Patiala's booths. So that's why, I mean, we can't ignore the complaints of the opposition parties.
In these elections, independent candidates had emerged as the biggest group, but Congress had the most number of candidates fighting on a party symbol.
Because they were the ruling party, so they were having that confidence that they will be winning. And in fact, the local MLAs only campaigned for the candidates. The party president, Sunil Jakhar, he just went for one day in Abohar, which is his own native area, and he did a protest on the rising LPG prices. That's it. He didn't go anywhere in the state to campaign. And contesting on the party symbol, that was also a signal to people that we are the party in power and we can perform and we can form the councils as well.
When we talk about the BJP, one important thing to note is that right now it is facing unprecedented anger in the state because of the new controversial farm laws that farmers across the state want repealed. It is because of this that BJP candidates had a very hard time campaigning for these polls, though they did manage to win at least 47 seats out of 2065. In some seats, Rakhi says, candidates won unopposed as well.
I spoke to one of the candidate who won from Jaitu area in Faridkot district. And he said that he was not able to campaign at all. He said, I sat at home, I made phone calls to the voters, and few of my friends and the relatives, they went out to campaign on behalf of me without any party's flag, without any posters. This is how he said I reached out to the voters, and he won by 380 votes. This is a rare case where few of the candidates won. Otherwise, they were hardly allowed to campaign. In Mohali, one candidate, he faced protests from the women. I mean, they actually manhandled him. That why are you coming out in our area and campaigning for your party? And the BJP president, Ashwani Sharma, wherever he went, the protesters followed him. And his vehicle was also attacked in Firozpur.
The other thing to consider is that many in the state, even now, have continued to protest outside the houses and offices of many BJP leaders, making it hard for them to work and campaign.
There were total 1,003 BJP candidates who contested on party symbol, and hardly any of them were allowed to open their party office to campaign. If a few of them opened, the farmers came and they got those offices closed. A number of them in Malerkotla and Ahmedgarh, they did some foot march during late evening hours so that they should not face any protest. Such was the condition.
She says that the BJP candidates who have won in areas where BJP has been winning for the past many years and where candidates have a personal connect with the people in the area.
The wards where the candidates have won, most of those wards, they have Hindu vote bank, the urban vote bank, and a number of people there. I mean, they won from Pathankot, Sujanpur, Hoshiarpur. These are the stronghold of BJP from the past many years. So that's why they managed to win few of the seats.
When looking at the results, Rakhi says that the other thing that stands out for her is the poor performance of the Aam Aadmi Party, which is supposed to be the main opposition in the state and which had campaigned a lot in the days leading up to the polls. But what has happened instead is that the Shiromani Akali Dal has emerged as the second biggest winner.
Because after Congress have won 1,400 plus seats on their party symbol, and Akali Dal, they have won 290 plus seats. And the independents, they come at number 3, who have won 280 plus. So Aam Aadmi Party, which is the main opposition party, they managed to win only 57 seats, and followed by BJP, who won 47 seats. So you can see that Aam Aadmi Party, who did so many of the road shows in Punjab, and they did extensive campaigning, they won only 57 seats, while BJP, who were not even allowed to campaign, they still managed to win 47 seats.
These results, like mentioned earlier, are expected to set the tone for how things will turn out in the assembly elections, which are scheduled to take place next year in the state. And based on this, Rakhi says that the Congress is likely going to use this win as its base and USP for the way ahead, with Akali Dal emerging as its major opponent.
Akali Dal's spokesperson, Daljit Singh Chima, he said that there were a lot of unfair means which were followed by Congress. But they said that despite that, we have emerged as the second largest political party. We respect the voters, but the Vidhan Sabha elections are going to be different. This is what he said. BJP is saying that we are not even considering these municipal polls because they were not even allowed to campaign. And they said that Vidhan Sabha elections, I spoke to Dinesh Kumar, organizational secretary of BJP, and he said that the Vidhan Sabha elections are going to be very different from the local bodies, and they are going to have a larger vote share in that election.
And in the end, we talk about the ongoing investigation by Indian Express that has been looking into how some primary health centers in Bihar have been fudging COVID-19 data and bypassing basic protocols. In an earlier episode, we had talked about how 6 primary health centers in the Jamui district had fudged COVID-19 data entries essentially to meet testing targets. After the investigation came out, the state government insisted that there were irregularities mainly in one district, that is Jamui. But now another finding has revealed that 4 primary health centers and 2 government hospitals in Bhagalpur show 438 entries for RT-PCR tests with 10 zeros listed as their phone numbers and incomplete addresses, making it virtually impossible to trace them. One of the hospitals in question had 10 zeros listed as mobile numbers for 534 entries across a fortnight from December 13 to 31st, 2020. In fact, there is not a single valid mobile number for any entry for this period at this hospital. Speaking to the Indian Express, Dr. Deena Nath, the civil surgeon, said that we have already been conducting an inquiry and have detected such anomalies. Our officials have been in the field investigating this matter. We will soon submit a report to the State Health Department. If you would like to know more about this investigation, do check out our episode, How Bihar Fudged Its COVID-19 Data. The link to it is in today's episode description. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and as always was edited and mixed by our producer, Joshua Thomas. If you like this show, then you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.